Welcome, friends gathered in sanctuary, on Zoom, and later on our YouTube channel. It's so good to be together. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Franklin, to the Smoky Mountains of Western North Carolina and Northeast Georgia, and the ancestral home of the Cherokee Indians. We are a lay-led congregation of progressive minds and caring connections. My name is Jill Ellard, and apparently I'm not reading very well today, but I'm delighted to be your service leader today. I've been told I'm just the right amount of wrong, so. We extend a warm welcome for those who have visiting us today or for the first time in quite a while. We're so glad to have you with us, and we look forward to getting to know you better. There would be an opportunity to introduce yourself later in the service, and make sure you sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already done so. The guest book is in the foyer. As we gather each Sunday, we take a moment to greet each other on Zoom here in the sanctuary, affectionately known as the roomies, and with the Zoomies they'll be able to see you from the camera. Please rise as you're willing and able, and wave hello, and stay standing for our gathering song. Please be seated. This simple act of connection reminds us that despite our differences, we are all part of this loving community. We appreciate our Sunday service team, Ben, Warren, Edgar, Penny on Zoom, and Claire on YouTube as she fixed the files for Zoom. Is there any fellowship announcements? We encourage people who want to keep healthy by using the supplies that are in the foyer, or join us on Zoom if you're not feeling well. If you do happen to test positive or have significant exposures, please contact our president, Jude Lowry. Be sure to keep up to date by checking the UU View, our website, or the bulletin board downstairs in Celebration Hall. Our fellowship is a light for liberal religion in the mountains that values the diversity and the richness that it brings to our community. Our celebrations of diversity are reflected in the variety of our Sunday services. In addition to different topics, our service sequence and lengths change often. We hope today's journey will enrich your journey of discovery. The theme of our service today honors the wide spectrum of spiritual journeys we take throughout the course of our lives. Today we reflect on the ancient Egyptians' practice of the afterlife. We welcome our member, Melanie Vick, to discuss this topic. Melanie is a North Carolina native who moved to Jackson County in 2015. She attended Western Carolina University and graduated with her bachelor's and master's degree in social work in 2019 and 2021, respectively. She is an advocate for mental health and a therapist that specializes in trauma treatment, especially when it applies to the LGBTQ community and neurodivergent communities. She is passionate about art, nature, and diverse spiritual practices. Chalice lighting? Judith, is she here? Yes, there she is. And I think that you're going to do that.
Our chalice lighting today was written by Jean Wallstrom and is titled, "In This Small Flame We Dwell." In this small flame dwell the beacon light of lanterns guiding travelers home, the warmth of hearth fires tended through generations, the transforming energy of furnaces and the power and life of our sun. May these blessings, warmth and light and life-giving energy be kindled in each of us. Next is our opening song, Amun-Ra's Anthem to the Rising Sun by Jeffrey Goodman.
Please join us in welcoming Melanie Vick with a service entitled Journey of the Souls.
Before I get started describing the full journey to you, I would love to open this up for our story for all ages that will kind of give a good friendly summary of everything we're going to talk about today.
As you've probably guessed, the Egyptians believed that life existed after death. They call this the afterlife. And the place they believe they went to was called the Field of Reeds. This was a paradise kingdom in heaven that was governed by the god Osiris, the god of the dead and the god of resurrection. They imagined it to be surrounded by wheat and fruit trees where people ate, drank, and were happy for eternity. However, before they went to the Field of Reeds, a number of things had to happen. Firstly, they had to die, obviously. Then they had to be made into a mummy. The Egyptians believed that their bodies needed to be preserved in order to survive the journey to the afterlife. A death mask was placed on them so that they would be recognized in the afterlife. They were placed into a coffin with a variety of amulets and lucky charms. The Book of the Dead was placed in the coffin too. The spells in here would be useful in the afterlife. Then there was a funeral where lots of offerings were made. Finally, the body was placed in a sarcophagus. It's at this point that the soul was recognized by the underworld, and the body was raised in order to embark on its journey to the afterlife. However, it wasn't that easy. There was a huge test ahead. Priests, family members, mourners, and embalmers had done all they could to help the body on its way. Now, it was the body's turn. Firstly, the body had to survive a boat voyage on a long and perilous journey through the dark, gloomy waters of the underworld. The waters traveled on was called the River of Death. The ferryman on the boat and the guide himself would be Anubis. However, on the way, the body would be blocked by various evil spirits, lakes, fire, and deadly snakes. As you know, the body was buried with the Book of Death that contains lots of spells. This would now come in handy. Eventually, the body would arrive at the Hall of Judgment. It's at this place where it would see Osiris himself. Yet this wasn't the end. Every person earned their place in the Field of Reeds by doing good deeds while the body was alive. The better the deeds you did, the lighter your heart became. If the heart was not light, it would not be allowed to go to the Field of Reeds. So Anubis would take the heart and weigh it against a feather. The life of the body was then judged by Osiris himself, depending on how the heart weighed. If the heart was heavier than the feather, this meant that the body was full of wickedness, and the heart was gobbled up by a monster. The soul was then lost forever. However, the heart was light as the feather, the body was full of goodness, and could enter the Field of Reeds and have eternal joy.
Today, I will be your humble tour guide on a recreation of this journey. This journey is going to take us through all the stages that the ancient Egyptians believed a soul would move through at the time of the body's death. My goal for today is to show you the primary beliefs held about death in ancient Egypt in a way that you can find meaningful and impactful to your own life. While much of the history and practices in ancient Egypt were indeed lost, there has been a modern neo-pagan revival of their belief systems and worship practices. These practices are often referred to as Kemetic. Kemet was the ancient name for Egypt, and Kemetic can be understood loosely as of or belonging to ancient Egypt. Our service today is primarily Kemetic in both belief systems and ritual. But first, I'd like to go into a little bit of history. There's been a long-standing interest and fascination with Egyptian practices, and as it turns out, we even have a connection to this discovery locally. The builders of the Biltmore estate in Asheville had a daughter named Cornelia Vanderbilt, and Cornelia's family and mother-in-law especially had a passion for ancient Egypt. Through this connection, the family took many trips to Egypt and even supported research in the area. It was this research that they funded that ultimately helped Howard Carter on his trip to find the lost tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922. And while I won't go too much into depth in that history today, I do encourage you to visit the Biltmore Estate's exhibition titled Tutankhamun, His Tomb and Treasures while it's still available. It is absolutely worth going to. After Howard Carter found Tutankhamun's lost tomb, a craze appropriately named Egyptomania became globally popularized. Much of this enthusiasm and vigor many people have surrounding Egyptian mythology is with the beauty and the mystery that is highlighted in their culture. Since then, we've had musical, theatrical, and cinematic references that allude to Egyptian mysticism and beliefs. Such songs like Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bangles in '86, movies such as Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom in '84, The Mummy in 1999, and both comic and recent TV series renditions of Marvel's Moon Knight even offer a wealth of Egyptian-themed inspiration. The movie Beetlejuice, if you're familiar, contains a handbook of the recently deceased, and this was closely based on the ancient Egyptian tradition of the Book of the Dead. The biggest difference being that in Egypt, this handbook was originally often carved on the inside of the sarcophagus, the walls of the tomb, or even written on a scroll and tucked in with the corpse itself. Although much of the truth and details of the culture have been lost, there's still sufficient information to piece together the beliefs that they held. Many argue that the vast quantity of beliefs which are lost only adds to the beautiful and desirable qualities that many think of when they reflect on ancient Egypt. As we get started on our journey, I want to make clear that I am entirely self-educated on this topic. I have dug through pretty much as many books, podcasts, articles, and documentary, and basically any ancient Egyptian media I could get my hands on since I was a kid. Ancient Egyptian spiritual beliefs are as vast as they are deep, and the names of gods, goddesses, and other important beings are often even spelled in many different variations. Depending on the region of Egypt you're examining, even the deities that they worshipped changes. This is further complicated when we add the human touch of pharaohs, the kings themselves, who often had complex leadership styles and varying beliefs. Believe me when I say there is plenty to explore for the enthusiastically curious. I also want to acknowledge that regardless of culture, death is a difficult topic. In a time where death seems to be around every corner in our world, our country, our state, and even our local community, the topic of death is a tender one. Whether you believe that death in our mortal form is our finality, or that our soul is unending and death is but a transition, death is difficult, and that's okay. For today, we travel this journey together. And our journey does indeed begin at death. The Kemetic cultural beliefs and practices are highly death-centric. This means that their mythology, their stories, their beliefs, even their celebrations were primarily centered around death, which is widely contrary to what most of our Western society is really accustomed to. For the ancient Egyptians, preparing for death was akin to just preparing for a long journey. In early eras of ancient Egypt, it was believed that only the leaders of the region, who acted as liaisons to the gods, Leaders whom nowadays we refer to as pharaohs would carry out this journey. But as time progressed, more and more people in that era believed that every soul would venture through this journey. Once the person's body had stopped, a team of holy people, priests or priestesses, depending on the region, beliefs, and availability, would begin to prepare the body. Many priests themselves would even wear masks resembling the god Anubis, who was the protector of the dead, during the process as a way of bringing his spirit forth into the practice. Every organ in the body, with the exception of the heart, was removed. The body itself was wrapped in resin-soaked fabric to preserve as much of the physical presence as possible. This was because many believed that once the journey of the soul had been completed, there would one day be a reunification with their original body. Many ancient Egyptians would pray to Anubis, as he was viewed as the guide to the underworld, who would oversee the mummification process and the entire journey that this soul would take. This is not the last time we will hear about Anubis either. Once your body had been tended, your soul would emerge and begin its journey into what they called the duat, which is their name for the underworld. The soul, as ancient Egyptians believe it to be, was composed of two parts. The first is the Ka, that's Ka, which is the essential and basic life force that all living things carry. Every single thing has what they referred to as a Ka. The Ba, B-A, is the individual personality that makes us unique. And that portion of our soul was often depicted as a bird flying through the underworld. Along this journey, there are a total of 12 gates, each guarded by ancient beings, and each of the 12 gates being representative of the 12 hours of night. It was believed in this time that Ra, the sun god, would carry the sun himself through the underworld every single night, which I think sounds exhausting. And each morning, he would bring it to the sky and let it rise again. So the journey, they believed, much mimicked how Ra brings light to the sky. As long as preparation went according to plan, now your Ba would reference its Book of the Dead to use the sacred words and spells prepared for you to appease the deities at each and every gate. What's interesting is a lot of times they would reference this Book of the Dead, and it's really challenging to look at this from a historical perspective because every single Book of the Dead was different. It was intended to be a customized document. At each gate, a guardian would ask questions about your life on earth as a way of testing you and determining your worthiness. So long as your soul survived the perilous journey through the duat, the next place it landed would be the Hall of Judgment. Anubis, who is our jackal-headed deity who oversaw the mummification process from the start, waits there to aid in the process of weighing the heart. In order for a soul to pass through the underworld and into the eternal afterlife, the heart must weigh less than a feather. While this feather was often referenced as an ostrich feather, it was intended to be a representation of a feather from the wing of a goddess named Mot. Mot is a goddess representative of cosmic order, justice, truth, and balance. So if you ever see an ancient Egyptian goddess who very much looks like an angel, that is very likely to be Mot. The belief was that your heart, the same heart that the priestesses intentionally left in your body when you were mummified, would be key to determining your everlasting fate. If, when Anubis weighed your heart, it weighed less than a feather, your soul would pass on into the glorious field of reeds, where you would spend your eternal paradise in the gardens. But if your heart was heavy and filled with wrongdoing, they believed it would be consumed by Ammit, who is also known as the devourer of the dead, which I think is a very intimidating title and not nearly as cute as the animated version. In fact, she is a demoness that was supposed to combine the three most dangerous creatures the ancient Egyptians even knew of. She presented with the head of a crocodile, the forequarters of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. Scary, right? It's very intimidating. Osiris, who was seen as the god of the dead, would have the final say in the judgment of the weighing of your heart and would ultimately provide the verdict: eternal life in the field of reeds, or the consumption of your soul, which would end your very existence. No pressure, right? Given the beliefs the Egyptians had about the afterlife, it's no surprise that they took the process very seriously. While the presentation of the beliefs the ancient Egyptians had may be different, the message remains the same as it is in many messages across faiths, both past and present. Live your life in a way that is fair, kind, truthful, and just. And while no one, myself included, can say with certainty whether our heart is weighed against a feather in the end, my hope is that you will all live with lightness in your heart.
Thank you, that was great. We are grateful for all the diverse variety of spiritual practices that are the sources of the Unitarian Universalist faith. We are most grateful for the diverse gifts of time, talent, and treasure that have been given by so many in love and in hope. Please give generously to the life of this community. Now join with me as we dedicate our gifts. Gifts given in love and hope, continuous cycle. May it be so. Thank you for your support. All financial gifts are appreciated. There are there's stamped addressed envelopes in the mail in the back foyer. Donations are also welcome electronically, including a PayPal link on our webpage and in the UU View. There's also a celebration jar here and downstairs for coffee donations downstairs. As we prepare for joys and concerns, know that they will be edited out and not posted online. Visitors, if we have any, I think I've seen some folks I don't recognize or been here a while. It is a joy to recognize you today. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please raise your hand. Let's see on Zoom first. Do we have any new ones? Nope. Okay. What about here? A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. And now, as we open our hearts to one another, we carry a joy or concern, a piece of good news, a celebration. Let us rejoice with you. If you carry a concern, a grief, a worry, a pain, let us share the burden. If you would like, you're welcome to come up to the podium here or the standing mic and come and give us a brief special joy or concern, and I will drop a pebble into the water here. We'll begin on Zoom. And let me add a last pebble for those to remember those who've spoken, those that are named, and those that we hold in the silence of our heart. Now I invite you for a moment of silence, a minute. You can choose to meditate, pray, reflect on something you've heard here today, or to simply sit in silence in the community with others. I'll bring you back with the chimes. And now our closing song.
You may be able to tell by her little shush at the end. That was actually a version of a traditional lullaby from that area that focuses on the story of a little boy needing to fall asleep while he waits for his dad to come home from the market. So I thought it was so interesting that a lullaby can be put to such energetic drum beats. We have our closing words, which are adapted from the Silvana Alassia's Egyptian Oracle deck. May Anubis, the symbol of rebirth, regeneration, and the renewal of life, aid us in the ending of our service today. May he, the protector of tombs and embalmer of the dead, accompany our souls on our journey today and every day, as he does for souls crossing into the afterlife. May he guide us through the transformation our hearts take as we leave here in love and rebirth.
Judith's not here for our chalice distinguishing, so I will do it. Just one more. More Than One Life by Lee Herbert. Is that how you say his name? Herbert? Lighting a candle is somewhat like the beginning of a life. If that was true, perhaps distinguishing a candle is like the ending of a life. But death may not be the end of us. We live on in the memories of our friends and loved ones. The influence we possess in life works on, moving people and moving causes forward. Let us not forget that those candles have more than one life, so perhaps we do too. Thank you for joining us joining us to the service today. Following the service, those on Zoom are invited to continue the conversation. Melanie will stop by the tech table, and those in the sanctuary are invited to social time downstairs in Celebration Hall. Next week, service is about the Code of World War II and honors 2 life-saving codes, beginning with the origins of our chalice and the Navajo code talkers as we celebrate Native American History Week. It is also the time-changing Sunday and potluck. It's a busy week. So let us rise in body or spirit. Those in the sanctuary may choose to hold hands. Yes.
We have a mini circle.
Yes. Here. Yes. Ready? Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and community is its goal. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So may it be. Wave goodbye to the Zoomies.